Hey guys, welcome back. Subscribe right away so you won't miss any updates from this channel. Join our VIP program and enjoy special perks like callouts, special emojis, and getting your comments pinned at the top. If you have a story to share on our channel, send us a Facebook message. Alrighty, let's get to it. So we're still talking about the Guyana-Venezuela border controversy. We will keep doing so until it's no longer a thing. So make this channel your go-to for these types of content. A few days ago, Guyana's Vice President, Bharrat Jagdeo, commented on Guyana's stance regarding the escalating tension between Guyana and Venezuela. Here's what he said.
And we are working with a number of partners around the world to ensure that any Venezuelan aggression that manifests itself in a physical form would be dealt with appropriately.
The vice president pretty much said that Guyana is not going to tolerate any further form of physical aggression from Venezuela. As you can tell, Guyana is sounding confident in its ability to take on Venezuela. Jagdeo also told the press that, quote, "These antics by the Venezuelan government must be taken seriously." I've highlighted a response comment by one of our viewers on the screen to a video posted yesterday on this particular statement by Vice President Jagdeo. The commenter says, quote, "How Guyana ready to deal with Venezuela? They don't have an army, no weapons, no tanks, no warplanes, no warships. Right now, Venezuela cutting roads through the jungle to take over Essequibo." But what does the statement about dealing with Venezuela's aggression really mean? The statement by Vice President Jagdeo. Is this simply another political rhetoric to appease the Guyanese public, or does Guyana finally mean business? For one, the statement is vague and left open to interpretation. There is no clarity on what constitutes a, quote, physical form of aggression in Guyana's mind. And what does it mean by dealt with appropriately? What would be the appropriate actions that Guyana can take in defense of Essequibo and its sovereignty and territorial integrity? Are you one of those who are imagining all kinds of scenarios? And does Guyana have the upper hand in any of them? Today we're going to look at a couple of things. Firstly, what is considered physical aggression from one country to another under the United Nations Charter, policies, rules, laws, declaration, and treaties, etc., etc., regarding the principle of non-interference and respect for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of another country. Well, I haven't reread the entire UN Charter, but Article 2.4 of the United Nations Charter states that all states that signed up to the charter, quote, "shall refrain in their international relations from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state or in any other manner inconsistent with the purposes of the United Nations." So basically, members to the UN Charter, those countries that are members under the UN Charter, are supposed to avoid using force or threats of force towards each other. Both Guyana and Venezuela are members of the United Nations. Based on the UN guidelines, physical aggression may mean the use of force. It does not specify what is considered use of force, even though an obvious one is actions involving arms. Under the UN Charter, the use of force in Article 2.4 generally refers to military force, specifically actions that threaten or use force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state, with exceptions for self-defense or actions that are authorized by the UN Security Council. But let's move on. The next thing we want to look at is what kind of, quote, appropriate measures can Guyana use to counter any form of physical aggression from its belligerent next door neighbor to the west. Let's see. Number one, is it calling up Maduro and asking him to stop the antics, as Jagdeo calls it? Maduro might send a call to voicemail, okay? Maduro only wants to discuss the border issue on his time and on his terms. So scratch that strategy. Number two, is it asking Venezuela to honor the Argyle Agreement? Venezuela is aware of its actions and knows some of them violate the Argyle Declaration and United Nations rules. All the talk about a peaceful resolution in St. Vincent and the Grenadines fell by the wayside. So far, we've witnessed actions upon actions by Venezuela contra to the Argyle Declaration. Honoring a declaration that has no legal effect in international law takes integrity by the heads of state who signed the agreement, nothing less than integrity. Because the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, cannot enforce the Argyle Declaration. So, scratch that strategy too. Number three, is Guyana going to complain again to the International Court of Justice? Been there, done that. What can the ICJ do to Venezuela? The ICJ is limited in its ability to check Venezuela and many other countries. Besides, Venezuela has no respect or regard for the ICJ or its 2023 ruling, which, by the way, it violated days after by holding a referendum to secure national support for the Maduro regime's plans to annex Essequibo. So, scratch that strategy too. Oh yes, right. Guyana can call up the United States. After all, the US pledged to support and defend Guyana's sovereign rights when it comes to the border issue. The thing is, we're not sure of the level of assistance the US is prepared to provide. It may or may not involve military involvement. Perhaps it will stop at diplomatic assistance. We have zero idea and can only speculate as to how far, how wide, and how deep the United States is willing to go to help defend Guyana's sovereign rights. If the US does not come to Guyana's aid, should there be military aggression by Venezuela, where does that leave the country? When you crunch the numbers and do a comparison, the Guyana Defense Force does not have the capacity to take on the Bolivarian army of Venezuela plus Venezuelan civilian forces. So scratch that option. Number 5, let's see what else Guyana can do. Is it leaning on CELAC, the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States? You can forget about the Caribbean and Latin American nations. They're just sitting back and watching the entire thing play out. That includes CARICOM. Here and again, they'll issue a statement denouncing Venezuela's action. But usually, it's not anything stern, just a slight slap on the wrist. Imagine CARICOM described the Venezuelan warship incursion and violation of Guyana's territorial integrity by describing it as the ship having an, quote, interaction with ExxonMobil's floating oil production vessel. Was that a mere interaction when a sailor on the warship was grilling the captain of ExxonMobil's FPSO vessel? Guys, we could go on this issue, and it will likely come back to the same question. What really can Guyana do to help defend itself against any form of aggression, physical aggression or not? What can Guyana do to defend itself against Venezuela? Let me know your views in the comment section. And guys, do you think Venezuela will interpret Jagdeo's recent statement as a threat and retaliate? You guys know it doesn't take much to put President Nicolas Maduro on edge. When Guyana denounced the warship incursion on the first day of this month and called up its allies, Maduro accused the Guyana government of plotting a war plan against his country. He then leveled personal attacks on Guyana's president, Irfan Ali, referring to him as the Vladimir Zelensky of the Caribbean. Don't be surprised if Maduro says Guyana is again in breach of the peace agreement called the Argyle Declaration. Guyana and Venezuela's heads of state agreed in December of 2023 to avoid using force or threats of force against each other. Maduro could claim that Vice President Jagdeo's statement is in violation of the peace agreement. Again, it doesn't take much to irritate Nicolas Maduro. When the British warship, the HMS Trent, visited Guyana in December of 2023, Maduro was not a happy camper. He interpreted the warship's presence offshore Guyana's western border as a threat to Venezuela's territorial sovereignty and integrity, but it didn't end there. Venezuela capitalized on the situation by sending troops to its frontier facing Essequibo. This was supposedly a temporary move by the Bolivarian Republic until the British warship left. Instead, Venezuela continued sending more troops to the border under the pretext of border security. Guyana took this as a form of physical aggression through military buildup and posturing, and informed the World Court and its allies of the development. Of course, Maduro defended the troops' presence at the border as an act in defense of Essequibo, or Guayana Essequiba, as it is said in Espanol. The fact of the matter is that Maduro is not going to let up on the claims to Essequibo. We've seen actions that can be taken as slow, progressive, and strategic moves to stage an invasion and annexation. And don't dismiss or underestimate the civilian infiltration tactic through the unauthorized entry of individuals from Venezuela into Guyana. They call it Venezuelan migration. Venezuela already built a bridge linking the territory to the island of Ancocco, which is located within Guyana's territory. Maduro already picked an army general to govern Essequibo, and Essequibo is a region within Guyana's lawful control since 1899. How could you pick a governor to govern part of a territory that belongs to another country? The ICJ has not yet ruled on this matter. So why is Maduro going ahead and making plans and taking steps to annex Essequibo? Venezuela also announced that they will hold regional elections in May in Essequibo to elect a governor. And last but not least, one of the most aggressive moves so far, in the form of a Venezuelan warship entering Guyana's exclusive economic zone, and one of the ship's sailors warning the captain of ExxonMobil's vessel that the ship was conducting oil production in Venezuela's exclusive economic zone. Okay, guys, I'm gonna skedaddle out of here. Post your comments below. I can't wait to hear from you. See you in the next video.